Hey, what's up guys? This is Enemy Stand User and today is a very special video as we will be discussing and going over 50 plus characters in a power ranking video with Jujutsu Kaisen. Absolute madness. I was debating on whether to do a whole video or to break the video up into separate parts, but screw it. I'm going all in, so buckle up and get that cursed energy power revving. Keep in mind this sort of list or discussion is my own opinion, and of course, please share what you guys think in the comments to keep the discussion going. The point of this video is to have fun and to kind of share ideas because this series is really awesome and it really deserves the hype in the community that it gets. This list is also might miss some characters and I will be going over what I feel are more relevant fighters in the series, more people who display their power and cursed energy. So no one too unknown like newer people in the series that are introduced like Tengen and Koen players, and no non-combatants like auxiliary managers and others. This list is also subject to change as Jujutsu Kaisen progresses, and I am separating the different characters into tiers. But remember guys, my intention for this video does not mean any of these characters are bad or weak in the series in any way. I'm just stacking them up compared to others in the series in the cast. Of course, some are better than others, and I might be making fun of some characters, but it's all open for debate, and I would just be thrilled to talk about it with you guys in the comments. But without wasting any more time, let's get right into the video. Okay, to start things off, we're looking at Jujutsu sorcerers with not a whole lot of power or relevance in the series. And I don't want to call them weak or bottom tier, but in the grand scheme of things, they kind of lack that drive to really shoot up the chain in power, and they really wouldn't be on Geto's radar for people who would be able to stop his plans. They're definitely not on Geto's list. But first up is Kyoto High's Miwa Kazumi. She is kind of the little sister in the Kyoto group, and she lacks the power and confidence to really go up the chain of power, but she still has solid abilities of her own, like her own simple domain with bottle sword drawing technique, and you could say she at least has her own set of skills, and she has been steadily shown to want to improve her own ability and has the drive to, so she has potential, but given her own grade and the lack of skills she possesses, for me, she can comfortably sit at her place at the bottom, and she makes it very hard to discern her own sort of confidence in herself and in her ability. Jujutsu 続けるなら喧嘩売る相手は選ぶこと。 Can you feel that? Next up is my Zenin, really a shadow compared to her other family members from the well-respected Zenin clan. In her own situation, she wanted to give up and to bend to the rules of the Jujutsu society and to her own clan as well, but she had to begrudgingly push herself because of her sister Maki's decision to move forward, which forced Mai to step up as a sorcerer and to prove herself in the clan, but due to her own lack of drive and power, she did not prove much in getting her the recognition she wanted, and it led her to a position as a grade 3 sorcerer and a disappointment to the clan. Still, even if she is in this low position, she is still a very skilled marksman when it comes to using guns and her own technique, construction, to use a large amount of cursed energy and make a single infused bullet instead of using bladed weapons like her sister. But Mai is super weak as her own technique weakens her and she has no real skill, leading to a really sad fight showing her weakness to Maki, and Mai really seems to be arrogant And she really seems to really throw her weight around weak people, even though she herself is weak and is stuck in this like cursed energy rut, you might say. She can't grow any further. And recently though, she still has shown her own determination and used what little cursed energy she had as a twin sister to help her sister Maki out and construct Toji's famed blade sword for Maki through sacrifice, giving Maki more power. However, due to Mai's weakness and lack of effort in her career as a fighter, I really don't see her favorably in this list as a fighter.
Dark Wave.
Next up is Momo Nishimiya, who is in my opinion not much better between the bottom two, but given her status as a grade 2 sorcerer, which lets her go on solo assignments on her own at her own skill level, Momo proves she is decently capable to a higher degree than the others, and uses her cursed energy as a wind-based attack, allowing her to levitate on her broom and use bursts of intense gusts of wind using her own cursed energy, like with Wind Scythe that she used in the Shibuya incident. She is also capable, but she's really limited by her own sort of beliefs and confidence in women in the Jujutsu society, and is more like a scout or a team fighter, and I don't really believe that she could really hold her own in any real battle besides being annoying in her ability to fly and levitate while the battle is going on. But she can get overwhelmed like what Nobara displayed when fighting her in the Goodwill event. And Momo, she is decent in a team battle, but when it really counts, we have not seen enough of Momo to prove that she could really stand along with the higher spectrum of Jujutsu sorcerers. We are now entering the more serious levels of fighter, with the new curse user Junpei Yoshino entering the scene. And he is more difficult to gauge where he was in terms of power, but given his ability, it made up for his lack of experience, having an inclination to see curses before his brain was morphed into a curse user. And his ability, Moon Dregs, a jellyfish-like Shikigami curse, it protects Junpei from attacks and has extremely potent poison that could immobilize opponents. And the only reason he is higher than the others is his potential as a fighter, and in my opinion, he has very high potential, and despite his tragic circumstances, he may have reached levels similar to that of sorcerers like even Fushiguro. But let me know what you guys think about it. Ino is a fighter that is very self-conscious of what his efforts get him in sorcery, and he works really hard, but he sort of is clingy when it comes to relying on others' strength, especially with Nanami. Ino has shown his own skill in the Shibuya incident when fighting the cursed hag Ogami and her grandson, which proved that he did have hands and he could fight to a higher degree than an average person. And he uses the auspicious beast summon technique, turning himself into a spirit medium and using the power of the 4 beasts Kachiki, Rikai, Karen, and Ryu to attack in a kind of tricky way. But it's ironic how the hag Ogami summoned her own beast with the seance technique through her grandson, summoning Toji Zenin's body, which proceeded to absolutely destroy Ino to no surprise because it's Toji. Very unfortunate for Ino, but we did not get to see much of him. And that was actually the last that we saw of him so far in the series. But I think Ino, he did have potential, but given his lack of courage and his self-doubt, and he was always so self-conscious in himself, I can't really see him stacking up to the rest of his peers. I think both of these girls, Nanako and Mimiko, they don't have much fighting power, but they do have some extremely potent curse techniques, as Mimiko's ability to hang targets with her doll, and Nanako's camera ability. They could really pose a threat as she pulls it out whenever she's pressed or whenever she's angry, possibly corrupting or hurting the image and the person when the photo was taken. But what really impressed me is when they avoided Jogo's fire attack with Nanako's ability. But this is another one where it's kind of in the air with where their power is due to the lack of info on them and their own deaths in the series, but both definitely were not really combat heavy, but just with their mysterious curse techniques.
が嫌で
This mid-tier is for fighters that are strong, and in some cases they are still growing in their own strength, but they might still be limited by their own power or potential in the series, or we haven't really seen much of their power or enough of their power or their skill sets or feats in the series to prove their own power. But to start off, we have Shigemo, and Shigemo is like the gatekeeper for this level. He will without a doubt single out and crush anyone weak or in a weakened state. He will not hesitate to go right to work, literally making sure to kick them while they're down. He even tried to press Hanami while he was injured. He is a sick and cowardly individual, and when it comes to his technique miracles, you can definitely see why he'd be so carefree with that ability. And when he spots little coincidences throughout the day, he stores these miracle marks under his eyes, which keeps him from dying until he's used them all up. And he also uses a cursed tool, sword, made by Juzo, which can move on its own, giving Shigemo an unorthodox fighting style. But due to Shigemo's recklessness and his arrogance, he often finds himself getting caught up into difficult situations, and he's not strong enough to handle those situations, and he often runs or he just gets overwhelmed, and that ultimately led to his death in series. Now it's time to talk about everyone's favorite panda that's not a panda. This sentient cursed puppet doll has its own individual soul, giving Panda his own will and an ability to activate and to transform into his sibling cores, like his brother's gorilla core. And Panda being the way that he is, he has incredible strength and endurance, allowing him to take a high amount of damage. But with Panda's gorilla mode, he can go absolutely ballistic with serious amounts of power and cursed energy. Panda has beaten a Mechamaru puppet and even has been able to fend off Toto from attacking Megumi. I think Panda, he could really competently fight everyone on this medium level, maybe even slightly above that to some extent. He really is a solid sorcerer. I wanted to add Iiri because of her relevance as an asset to the Jujutsu society. She is one of the very few humans who can actually perform the reverse curse technique in order to actually heal others and herself. And that would make her more of a medic in that regard. But I think because of her past and the fact that she is a sorcerer, she has to have at least some degree of skill, especially performing something as high level as reverse curse technique. But due to the lack of info we have on her, we just don't know how she could really stack up against others, but you cannot deny her skill. Utahime is an interesting teacher that displays that she might at times feel overwhelmed or discouraged, but she still is a Jujutsu teacher and a semi-grade 1 sorcerer, so she is a very reliable and valuable asset for the sorcerers, more than ready to help in the Goodwill event and in the Shibuya incident to aid her fellow allies. At the moment, her technique is not known, however the fanbook states it may involve singing, but given her status and level as a sorcerer, she is also pretty solid in her regard. The next curse user is up with Juzo Humiya. When you think about Juzo, he was actually quite a skilled curse user, being able to use barrier techniques and use cursed tools, along with being the creator of some crazy powerful curse tools like Dragon Bone, proving despite how insane he is still a master craftsman. But he is definitely out of his mind, and all he wants to do is to kill and to turn people into furniture like hanger racks. And you know he was definitely off his knocker when he proceeded to engage Gojo of all people like a madman and immediately gets crushed and incapacitated. Juzo lacks any sort of sense and is ultimately just a tool for Geto to use in his plans. But seeing how he was still able to fight and engage with Gakuganji, it just proves his own skill level. Yaga is a very stern and cool sorcerer, acting as Tokyo Jujutsu High's principal, and based on his level as a grade 1 sorcerer, Yaga is quite powerful, and his own physique and curse power proves that even the society considered him to be the title of a special grade, based on his curse technique, allowing him to give cursed corpses their own individual soul, making Yaga a target under the pretense that he could actually make an army with the puppets. Although I believe Yaga to be strong, there are much better sorcerers to justify him being this low based on his own potential and relevance in the story. Sakuganji is another great example of a strong sorcerer. In fact, given his age and status as a principal, he is very knowledgeable and powerful in his own right, using his amp-like curse technique, making his body into an amp and releasing powerful bursts of cursed energy from the sound waves of his guitar like he's Jimi Hendrix or something. Even using his power to defeat and kill Yaga. However, again, like Yaga, other younger sorcerers have shown much more potential and promise and even relevance in the story. Kusakabe is an incredibly strong and competent sorcerer despite not having his own technique. As Meimei mentioned, he still climbed the ranks all the way up to grade 1, proving that he is a master with the sword using battle sword technique drawing skills, as well as another sword technique that was interrupted by Sukuna's rampage. But Kusakabe is a smart and intelligent fighter in the sense that he knows when to pull out and run, and is definitely not the first to show up, but he would definitely be the first to leave. And still in the story, he has his own willpower, and even defended some other sorcerers from the Uzumaki attack initiated by the Fate Ghetto, showing his endurance a little bit. But to be honest, he is everything Miwa should be and has earned my respect in his place here in the list. Not to be mistaken for the evil Kamo from 150 years ago, Noritoshi Kamo had displayed the might and power of the great Kamo clan, aspiring actually to be the head one day, and based on his strength, he could actually become the head, but yet there is another Kamo blood user that I feel far surpasses him, which would be Chozo. And of course, not to say that Kamo is weak, he can still perform nearly every blood manipulation technique including piercing blood, convergence, slicing exorcism, crimson binding, and flowing red scale, so the amount of power and tools at his disposal is plentiful. And he really is cool. He can even prove to be a match to Fushiguro. But do you remember in the Goodwill arc, and Hanami invaded, then everyone engaged Hanami, but guess who was the first one to go down? Yep, Kamo. In fact, he got one shot so bad that he was one of the most injured people during that whole invasion to come out of it. So he is not moving any further up the scale for me, and he still is an above average fighter, maybe even pushing it more toward the high tier, but if you would give him enough credit for it, but he is still just far less superior than Chozo in his ability. I cannot stress that enough. This is the version of Maki before recent events, and she was actually really skilled and powerful despite her situation of having next to no cursed energy. She really took off and ran off in her career as a sorcerer, and she proved even in her situation as a grade 4 sorcerer, she made Miwa look like a clown and is really a master of cursed weapons of all types. And given her own situation, she is more than capable, I feel, to be given at this point to be given the grade of grade 1. And her skills are absolute. She especially showed that when she was engaging with Dagon and did her best trying to subdue the curse, as well as surviving Jogo's disaster flames. She was very impressive and has very good endurance. But as you might know, the next version of her just outclasses her in nearly every way and can even outclass some high tier characters, as we will discuss later. Inumaki is a rare cursed speech user from the Inumaki clan and is a very odd and also skilled sorcerer who is more than capable of handling himself, often talking in sushi or food recipes just to protect others from his cursed speech ability, giving Inumaki the power to turn his words, specifically verbs or action words, into reality with words like stop or blast away, even affecting curses like special grades, and he can just tell people to sleep like he did with Miwa, and this makes him a very potent and dangerous individual to fight, and as the battle could potentially, it could be over in just one word. You might even notice everyone in the Goodwill event avoided Inumaki because of his ability, and even when he wasn't there, they still had to acknowledge him as a threat to defend himself against him. And this power also bounces back over to Inumaki, as he does have a limit. He does have to limit his usage to protect himself, and it's just not a win-all ability. But still, Inumaki is a very smart fighter, and he uses his powers and abilities well. I know Kugisaki being this high on this list might be slightly unexpected, but she is an extremely confident and dominating person when it comes to fighting. She does not hesitate at all to bring out her A game. Nobara inherited her straw dog curse technique from her grandmother, and she really utilizes it heavily, even though the ability itself is not too combat oriented. It's more like for setup or for trap use to get unexpected targets. But Nobara really showed her power using things like resonance and hairpin to really show her own skill and tenacity when it comes to her power, often surprising her enemies with her expertise and her endurance or fortitude that she really takes to heart. She takes extreme hits, like when she fought the death painting wound and dealt with that pain, actually using that pain for the better to her advantage, and hurting herself to activate resonance and turn the tide of the battle. She is very outgoing and explosive with her power, and I should also add that she performed Black Flash, and to me that is a really big deal because it shows a sorcerer's mastery over cursed energy and their own power and focus in that respect. And her power level is it really to achieve Black Flash. Nobara truly has mastered her cursed energy, and she is a fearsome fighter. So overall, given Nobara's confidence and her full skill with her ability and the amount of tenacity and she possesses, she gives off this, she proves she's very capable and smart enough to at least engage high level threats or curses. She is definitely at least semi-grade 1 worthy and has loads of potential. Mechamaru, or rather Kokichi Muda, the curse user controlling Mechamaru, I feel at least needs to be at the top of this middle tier list because he is really a true monster when it comes to his own heavenly restriction, giving him vast amounts of cursed energy reserves and a large remote cursed energy control area that he uses to control Mechamaru puppets, which are heavily fitted puppets with weapons and devastating cursed attacks like Boost, Ultra Cannon, Albatross, and Ultimate Cannon, on top of their own enhanced mobility. Even though these puppets were defeated by Panda, imagine 3, 4, or 10, or even a whole army of these puppets. They would truly be too powerful and overwhelming. It is stated that Muda's energy is vast enough even to cover over all of Japan, and he uses cursed energy that he saved throughout his 17-year lifespan. But following Muda's idle mutation transformation and Ultimate Mechamaru mode absolute, Muda really showed how devastating his power can be that he has in store, using a giant 60 plus foot mecha that he controls, and even using condensed domain type capsules to fight Mahito. Now Muda, he is definitely closer to a high tier sorcerer with all these techniques, but all his resources, although they are powerful, they still are limited in that fact, and they are, he's stored with all those years, they're very temporary. He is still strong though, and he's a very solid sorcerer. Even in his death, he still showed his tactical prowess and insight, helping his allies in the Shibuya incident right until the end. And guys, just so you have a little bit more of a visual representation, I put up this tier list so far, so you kind of get to see how everyone stacks up against one another. The only people I'm looking at right now that maybe I had was a little bit on the fence about was like Muda and Kugisaki because of what they displayed toward their power levels and different skills as well. And Muda's heavenly restriction and Nobara's Black Flash ability, I just think that is they're extraordinary as sorcerers. But everyone in mid tier really shows that they're extremely solid, but they're still limited buy something to reach that sort of next level or next sort of tier in power. But let's get right on into it with the high tier. This tier is for individuals and sorcerers who are truly high-class grade 1 sorcerers and have superb cursed energy control, as well as the skills to prove their own power. And of course, as the video goes on, more will be added to this tier. But first up is Megumi Fushiguro, son to the infamous Toji Zenin and heir to the Zenin clan. Megumi is quite an impressive fighter, and as a sorcerer, even when he himself is somehow limited in his own desire to win and dominate, he is just content with doing the best that he can, and he does so. He's a great sorcerer, having a calm persona, being a weapons expert, as well as having and inheriting the 10 Shadows technique, giving Megumi access to different cursed Shikigami to use in battle, giving Megumi a variety of options to use when fighting. And Megumi is a great fighter, even utilizing weaker Shikigami to add more flow to his combat style, using everything he has to his disposal. He also has his own domain expansion. Albeit it is unfinished, it is enough to overcome even semi-special grade spirits like Finger Bears, and even started a domain battle with the cursed Dagon, so it can still be utilized. Megumi though has another trump card with summoning the divine spirit general Mahoraga to start a taming ritual that leads to a chaotic situation as it really was out of control. But what really holds Megumi back is his lack of confidence in himself, and he's always worrying about the battle and overthinking things and getting caught up in his own limitations. You might have noticed every time he was about to lose, Megumi was about to summon Mahoraga and sacrifice everything. Slowly though, he is improving himself and getting more and more confident with his own power, so he could sort of keep up with Yuji and his teacher Gojo. But despite Megumi's personal issues, he still has a desire to win and dominate and to really express himself and to grow as a sorcerer, and he really is a solid opponent. Mei Mei and Yui Yui are another pair of sorcerers I put together because I feel that they are stronger together more than they kind of are apart. They're like an inseparable pair. But they really are a good team, especially Mei Mei, a money-hungry warrior, as she is extremely a very brutal combatant despite her appearance, and she really is a master at using her own cursed energy, manipulating it throughout her body, giving her great combat prowess and potential. And she does opt to use her own sort of special grade tool, a special axe curse tool, to crush enemies that she uses. And she also has a technique with the black bird manipulation, allowing Mei Mei to use birds to scout out the battlefield and freely control them, using them even in techniques like bird strike, shooting them up with cursed energy and making them commit a kamikaze curse attack capable of killing even a high grade special grade like the smallpox deity. Yui Yui too is an absolute sister lover that would gladly even die for Mei Mei, making him a valuable asset for Mei Mei, and using his skills such as simple domain to help his sister, while also having enough skill to use an unknown ability and teleport him and his sister Mei Mei away from Ghetto, all the way to Malaysia. So Yui Yui definitely is a skilled user along with his sister, making them a really strong pair in combat. I think Nanami is the staple of what a true grade 1 sorcerer should be. He is strong, reliable, and has a high intellect, so he's perfect in almost all regards. Nanami is a cool, calm, and collected individual that shows when he is in battle, and he almost never falters against any sort of evil he faces. And when he does take hits, he endures so he can keep fighting with his allies, like when he did when surviving 2 special grade attacks, continuing on to push on despite the horrific injuries that he took. Nanami uses this curse ratio technique, letting him make a 10-line grid on a target's body, forcibly making a weak point and splitting it. He does this with finesse and fluidity, showing that he is a master swordsman and fighter. Nanami also has extreme or a maximum technique that you could say using overtime to expand the limits of his own cursed energy, and collapse to send a devastating strike to the environment, creating a weak point and causing the area to collapse. He also is a Black Flash user, really showing his mastery over cursed energy, having a total record of performing 4 Black Flashes in a row. Although Nanami can't perform a domain of his own, and is definitely not the strongest around, he still understands his role in the series, and he fought to the very end, leaving it all to Yuji and the next generation of sorcerers.
My best friend.
Nice final boy!
Color doesn't mean much. Doesn't much.
This elite tier is actually a tier I added on a little later, but I feel that it's a tier that needed to be added because of a sorcerer's potential and the amount of devastation that they could have as a fighter. And first up we have Todo, and Todo is an absolute brother and an absolute beast, and he is one of the most highly confident and proficient fighters in the whole series, giving everything he's got to crush anyone in his way. Todo has the means and the strength to muscle through nearly every situation, and he is just overflowing with his own funny little charisma. Todo's technique, Boogie Woogie, lets him switch with his opponents as well as switch anything that has cursed energy's place. This power is perfect in Todo's hands as he continues to mix and dominate multiple special grade curses with this power, proving he can even hang with the best of them, showing his high acuity for battle. Although I don't think this would be really possible if not for Yuji, Todo still has proven to be a top class fighter in the series, relishing in the fight. He can input his cursed energy throughout his body, reinforcing it, and he even has his own sort of strength, and he even is a Black Flash user, so the level of combat prowess he possesses outshines a lot of the cast. Todo is also, like Nanami, a very determined and smart fighter, engaging even high-level threats and curses as competently as he can. He even endures a ton of pain, like surviving Mahito's deadly technique, and he still pushes through. Although Todo is not the best around, he definitely would not hold back anyone, and he wouldn't hold back his power despite whatever threat he might face. Yuji is a person who continues to push and to work hard with what little experience he has as a sorcerer. Because of his already high aptitude for fighting, Yuji off the rip was a beast when it came to battle. Due to the mentorship he got from Gojo, Nanami, Todo, and now even with his encounter with Chozo, they conditioned Yuji to grow as a sorcerer very quickly, and Yuji gained strength as a cursed fighter at an extremely fast rate, climbing the ranks of power, even being referred to Chozo as a demon god. Yuji uses his own technique, Divergent Fist, to create a delayed second impact when he punches that can really get deadly when he adds his own superhuman strength to the mix, making it hard to take hits or to block hits from Yuji. Yuji is also an extremely natural fighter, applauded even by Todo, showing an impressive display of martial arts skills, as well as being a Black Flash user who could seemingly even do Black Flash at will, doing the impossible. This makes Yuji a fearsome foe, even besting Mahito in combat. Due to Yuji's determination and willpower, it has earned him this spot, and he is sure to expand his own potential as the series goes on. This is the version of Geto that was still a sorcerer and worked alongside his classmate Gojo, sorcerer at the time. And at this point, I think Geto was essentially untouchable as a sorcerer, and he was even considered the strongest along with Gojo at this point in time. And due to Geto's technique with the curse manipulation and his own considerable strength and combat prowess as a sorcerer, I think he was extremely strong and extremely solid. More powerful, in fact, than a good amount of the current generation, I would say. However, it is when he is converted into a curse user that his power and potential truly expanded as a fighter and as an opponent, I would say. Yuki is a sorcerer who, like Todo, will brazenly charge into a situation and take command, dominating the battlefield. Not much is known about her and her power, but it is undeniable that she is strong. I assume that she uses her large Shikigami curse to attack, but her title as a special grade should warrant respect for her power, as she taught Todo to be an excellent sorcerer and easily blocked Uroume's Ice Wall attack, saving her allies. Because of her presence and status as in the series, she is a special grade and she more than earns this high position in this rank. Also, an unrelated note, Yuki is 6'2", so she really is a tall woman with a big butt. This category is just a section to break off from the main sources, as most of the Zenin possess skills at least grade 1 and above. And I wanted to talk about the Hiei, and to start things off, I wanted to kind of explain Ranta a little bit, and his power. I believe with him, he actually is the weakest of the Hiei with his technique to paralyze Maki, who was now super overpowered. But Ranta's power seems to correlate to how strong the target is, and seeing how much of a beast Maki was, using this power was too much of a strain and was even enough to kill him. I would really place Ranta slightly under Panda in that medium tier due to what kind of grade he was, but I believe he was did show a decent amount of skill, but Ranta, he was not too confident with his encounter with Maki. Now Chojiro with the Hiei, I think he was a very confident opponent. Even due to his age, he immediately engaged Maki, having a brief scuffle before getting his throat snatched by Maki, leading to his death. But because of his wide earth-based curse technique and the power that he showed and the status as a sorcerer, I would place him at least sort of at Nanami's level because of the Zenin status and how they were the best of the best. Maki just truly bested all of them. Shinichiro is a very strong and a wild sorcerer, likely the strongest of the Hiei, with a large fist projection technique capable of destroying the very temple itself that they were at. But he was still defeated super easily by Maki's assault, negating any credit the Hiei are given. But seeing the power that he has and the level of prowess he showed in the family, at least, he earns a spot in this high grade section, at least above Nanami, and the Hiei are really hard to rank because of their sort of situation. It's very difficult. Next up is Ogi Zenin, and even though he never got a chance to really show his strength, neither did any of the other Hiei, but I believe because of his words saying he could have been the head of the clan if not for his children, they did have at least some weight, and he has shown a high level use of cursed sword techniques, and he smoothly dealt with Maki with Dragon Bone and this high level cursed tools, actually taking Maki's eye. So he definitely had some prominence and power to him, actually being a special grade 1 sorcerer. So I would put him slightly above Junichiro in that higher tier position. Naoya is a very arrogant, yet he is a determined fighter as a special grade 1 sorcerer like his father. And he inherited his own father's projection sorcery technique, allowing Naoya to reach impossible speeds and turn 1 second into 24 frames, along with allowing the user to trace a predetermined set of movements by using their user's field of view as an angle of view. While this technique is active, anything touched by Naoya's palm must abide by the technique's rule, or they could be frozen for 1 second. This power was enough to catch both Chozo and Yuji off guard and let Naoya negate Chozo's until Chozo actually used Supernova. Still, Naoya used his power to the fullest against Maki, really pushing himself and putting up a fight against this reborn Maki. He did get defeated later and even killed because of his arrogance. He was really strong nonetheless, and I would really put him in a range between Todo and Yuji given his own ability. I think Naobito's use of projection sorcery is more refined due to his own experience and age as a sorcerer, but also his endurance I respect at his age, and that he is fighting and taking on hits from the special grade Dagon, displaying his own simple domain with falling blossom emotion, as well as being a huge help in the group survival in Dagon's domain. Even without an arm, he still was a big help, and he was just a strong and crazy old man, even taking on Jogo after that incident for a brief moment before suffering from burns and his own injuries. He had confidence in his own power and prominence in the series as a special grade sorcerer, and he really did stand above the group as the head of the Zenin clan right on until he expired in the end. And that really earns him a spot slightly above his son in that high grade tier position. Now, finally, we get to the cause of all this madness in the perfect preparation arc with the newly awakened Maki Zenin, who now, because of my sacrifice, has 0 cursed energy, but in trade gets a bolstered heavenly restriction buff, and in effect she is more like an oddity like Toji was, and she shows her power absolutely blowing through the entire clan casually and killing everyone in her way because of her sister's wish to destroy everything. Maki is now an unstoppable beast and has gained massive combat prowess due to her reaching more potential than she ever has in the series before, now being free from cursed energy. This newfound power gives her feats that are just immeasurable, and she proved that she has earned her spot. Surprisingly, I would consider her over Yuji now due to her heavenly restriction and the amount of tenacity that she has shown, killing the entire clan. And she's more of a sorcerer, probably that would be in that upper high tier, closer to Yuki's power, with her overwhelming ferocity. It is just absolute madness. Maki is too strong, and she is just getting started. Curses have a strong presence and prominence in the story, and some curses can really give sorcerers a run for their money and take countless lives because of their erratic and chaotic behavior and actions. So let's go over some of the strongest curses, starting from some of the weakest up. And to start off with, we have the Grasshopper Curse. And this curse, it really was a more minor enemy, but it really demonstrated a power of how adept and how strong lower grade curses can actually be in JJK, and that they are born from the strong resentment of people. And the Grasshopper is a locust-like curse with all the abilities you might expect from a grasshopper you might see outside, except it has a superhuman level of power and can shoot black mucus from its mouth and jump with intense speed and extend its abdomen to a strikingly fast level. This curse, again, it was really minor, but it easily lost to Yuji, but despite the curse was actually incredibly strong, closer to like a semi-grade 1's power and capability, and it was even capable of speech, so its rank would at least be around sort of Panda's level due to its strength and power. Iso and Kechizuo are another pairing I put together, and both are special grade death painting curse womb given bodies by Mahito. And they did show their power, and they used their blood related techniques, kind of like their brother Chozo, and they both share the same rot and decay ability. And it's a technique and power. It's not especially deadly, but it is very potent, hyperactive, as it causes extreme pain and will kill the target over time due to its decay attribute. Both do have superhuman strength as a curse, but I think Iso is slightly stronger due to his superior intelligence and maximum technique Wing King, which is definitely a sight you could live without, as Iso sprouts its blood wings from its back, giving Iso the mobility and the power to spread the rot ability at a target. They are moderately strong, but due to their technique and the low threat they actually pose against really high level combatants, they can't really go medium tier for me, and they might sit around like Yago or Masamichi's level in the list. The finger bearer cursed spirits are a bit of an oddity when it comes to this list, but they still are a serious threat. Although they are not even near Sukuna's level, they do reflect Sukuna's malicious intent and enjoy their strength as a special grade. They do not have any sort of refined techniques, but rather they have immense amounts of cursed energy that they throw at enemies. It may be simple, but it has destructive, even deadly power if an opponent is not prepared for it. In fact, both times the finger bearer appeared, they were taken out by domain expansions, which not to say that a domain is the only thing that would work against them, it's just that it would be the most effective way to exercise and to deal with them and to retrieve the finger. They definitely are really strong and will require the attention of at least a high tier combatant like Fushiguro. The smallpox deity, like the grasshopper curse, is more of a minor enemy, however its power is anything but minor. As a curse spawned from the real world disease smallpox that has taken more than 300 million lives since the early 1900s, this disease curse is spawned from the hatred of millions, earning it the rank of a special grade, and is in the Pseudo Ghetto's collection as one of the 16 registered special grades. The disease curse has a graveyard domain that traps targets inside a coffin, slamming a giant gravestone down on it, and when it counts down to 3, the targets have to escape between that time or else they will be infected with the disease and die. This ability is very potent but can only be performed on one person though, so Mei Mei and Yui Yui's teamwork really was the main factor in its own defeat and exorcism. But I would put this curse slightly below Mei Mei and Yui Yui due to its potency and power as it has its own notoriety as a disease special grade curse, but it really showed that how powerful how curses can be.
Can you feel that?
Chozo is truly a special character and a special power in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. He is very much convinced he is the big brother to Yuji, and he acts as such, displaying absolute mastery over the Kamo clan's blood manipulation technique, being a much better version of Kamo as a fighter in my opinion. Chozo has displayed all the abilities for the Kamo clan, including new ones like Supernova, Blood Edge, Blood Meteorite, even having his own improved version of Flowing Red Scale with the stacked version increasing his power even further. Chozo was so adept at battle and his abilities that he actually beat Yuji in a hard fought 1v1 battle and still had energy left to spare to kill him. Even though now Chozo's side has changed and he still is, he changed a little bit with his mentality, he still is a battle hardened warrior, and he even defeated special grade 1 sorcerer Naoya with his power. So Chozo is definitely a high level threat in the series, and his potential is still growing, it's still rising, so I would really put him in a position more in line with Yuji at the moment. Mahito is a powerful curse. He is the definition of versatility and adaptation when it comes to fighting. His nature as a new and curiously sinister curse lets him freely grow and observe his own progress as a cursed fighter in the series. I think Mahito, with his place in the list, he is slightly, ever so slightly, just above Yuji due to his potential. Even if he did lose badly against Yuji, Mahito, he was really just getting started. Mahito has the innate curse technique, Idol Transfiguration, giving him one of the most sinister and horrific abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen. Idol Transfiguration grants Mahito the power to mutate and shape him or his target's body and soul into whatever form he sees fit, like some demented nightmare artist. He has shown multiple times his creativity using his power, and he has no bounds. He is a gifted fighter, often being able to fight multiple sorcerers at once, loving to absolutely push himself and to grow as a fighter. One time Mahito even faced off against the supersized Mechamaru, and he absolutely relished in that fight, pushing his endurance and creativity to overcome Muda's plan, leading to Kochiki Muda's defeat and death despite how prepared he actually was. Mahito also has his own domain expansion, the self-embodiment of perfection, letting his innate technique not be limited by touch, but anywhere in the area of his domain territory, the target is subject to item mutation. He is also a black flash user on top of all of his combat prowess, which proves Mahito's own mastery over cursed energy. He is a dark and twisted genius and loves it, performing a domain expansion even with the new 0.2 seconds after experiencing it once and adapting to Sukuna's presence in that situation at that one time. Mahito is a truly gifted fighter. He also experienced the true essence of his soul and transformed into the instant spirit body of distorted killing, a rigorous and brutal form, more muscular and sporadic, specifically tailored to deal with Yuji's fighting capabilities, being extremely fast and fluid against Yuji, having hardened skin and the power to kill and pulverize, being an extremely tough force against Itadori, even leaving a lasting scar on Yuji due to Mahito's assault. Even if Mahito was overcome and defeated in the end, I feel he was a really devastating power and a really terrific special grade and really earns his high rank on this list. But now I'm looking at the list and I'm putting Maki over Mahito, Chozo, Yuji, and Todo. But I feel she more than makes up for that fact because of her own innate acuity for battle and her own strength as a sorcerer and her heavenly restriction. She just proved that she is a beast and a monster, and she easily coasted through her own family in the Zenin clan, and she just displayed power that we have only seen one time before with Toji, and she's just getting started. So I feel that she is really exploding as a sorcerer, and she is getting so much stronger than I thought she would when we first seen Maki. But we're moving on with a higher tier of fighters, moving on with the curses. And I know this is a hot take, but I believe the following curses are stronger than all of the previous categories or characters so far. And they are the real deal and the reason why sorcerers should be on guard and cautious about the power and devastation special grades can hold. Hanami is the first up with super immense and profound cursed energy, being an extremely powerful and tactful cursed fighter. He shows remarkable intellect as a curse, as well as being well versed in battle and fighting, having no problem fighting and taking out Megumi's group in the Goodwill event, wiping the floor with those young students. He has extreme acuity for battle, having a strong combative shell, cursed regen abilities, and shows his skills with an array of powers and techniques. Just to name a few, Hanami has deep root attacks that can shape and morph the battlefield immensely to his advantage, wood balls to skewer and distract a target, flower field to completely distract and stun targets, causing them to be open for attack, as well as disaster plants, and cursed bud, a powerful cursed ability to drain power from any target it latches onto. Although we did not get to see Hanami's domain, he does have one, and that will complement Hanami's ability to master and use barrier techniques. All his powers, topped with Hanami's determination and combat prowess, make for an immensely powerful special grade curse that holds copious amounts of power behind its attacks, and he really earns that high grade position. Dagon up next is definitely the group sleeper agent because he is a disaster waiting to erupt and to cause devastation behind his cursed womb state. Dagon is willing to do anything for his fellow curses and shows how powerful he is when shedding his cursed womb state and turning into a fully fleshed out special grade curse. In this form, Dagon is like this Cthulhu-like entity capable of taking on multiple high-level opponents, including grade 1 Nanami and special grade 1 Naobito, with relative ease, even giving both of them serious injuries leading to their deaths later on. He achieved this by activating his domain, the Horizon of the Captivating Skanda, a watertight beach domain filled with ferocious fish Higami that attacks targets and flow endlessly through Dagon with Death Swarm. This domain is so overwhelming that it actually makes it impossible for the sorcerer to gain any ground, as they have no choice but to flee and to escape from it. This is a nod to Dagon's own power as a curse, even scuffling briefly with Toji Zenin before being brutally murdered by his hands. Dagon still though is a major power on the curse's side and shows his immense fortitude and ability as a special grade curse. Now I know this character is quite literally a hot topic, but with Jogo I have to mention he has probably the worst fighting history that we have ever seen, to the point where he could even be viewed as a comedy relief character. He lost so badly to both Gojo and Sukuna that it is laughable, and you wouldn't be blamed for disrespecting Jogo's power. All the while, when you consider his losses and shortcomings, he is different compared to some of the top S-tier opponents in the series. They are on another level. It is when Jogo is looked at from a lower perspective that his true danger comes to show. As a hot-headed lava curse, he is about as short-tempered as he actually is short. He is a proud curse spawning from the human's fear of strong volcanic mountain regions. He is a very old and experienced combatant, knowing his way around a fight, even having his own domain expansion, Coffin of the Iron Mountain, a dense and heated volcanic area where Jogo can fire guaranteed hits of molten rock. This domain would normally be impossible to even stand in because it would be like you were in the heart of a volcano. So most opponents on this list would actually suffer or even die if this technique was activated. However, we do know that how the situation ended with Gojo's superior domain. Though Jogo, as a proficient fighter, he's even able to quickly subdue Maki, Nanami, and Naobito. Albeit they were injured, to him it was a piece of cake. He also has a variety of power at his disposal, like Disaster Flames, Ember Insects, and Maximum Meteor, which is an immensely powerful maximum ability that Jogo used in the Shibuya incident against Sukuna, having a huge destructive power that even the king of curses Sukuna, he acknowledges his strength and power and his determination. I really do think Mahito, he may have more raw ability or potential as a fighter, but in terms of power and cursed energy, I think Jogo is Jogo's more ahead on that part. But Jogo, he may have a bad losing streak, but he is no joke when it comes to his power, and he definitely is a deadly curse that is a very real threat. Mahoraga is a curse that I feel is Megumi's greatest trump card, and is a monster that is likely something that might even surpass the title of special grade. This extremely volatile and immensely powerful curse, like its name suggests, is a battle-hungry warmonger monster that only knows devastation and violence. This curse has never in history been tamed by a Ten Shadows user in the Zenin clan. And this is to be expected, as it has the power to even send Sukuna himself flying from his strikes, and it truly gave Sukuna a bit of a challenge, at least in the state that he was in with 15 fingers consumed. Mahoraga was so powerful that it had the ability to adapt to any and all external phenomena by spinning its 8-handled wheel. This even applied to Sukuna's slashing and dismantle attack, making him essentially unkillable with extreme power on top of that. He is only defeated when Sukuna unleashes his own domain, Malevolent Shrine, and wipes him out, along with most of the city of Shibuya, and proceeded to fire an unknown cursed flame attack on it so it could not regenerate. then incinerating it. But the pure amount of power the curse possesses and the outrageous amount of cursed energy and what was actually needed to take it out just put it way ahead in the I feel it would be on top of the curses and the power in this category. Again, just to show where we're sitting at right now, I know this video is kind of a long one, but I wanted to put the curses in a different tier because I felt of how prominent and how powerful they've been shown, that they are different than the rest of the cast in terms of their own power and skill level and the raw strength that they have as special grades. But so far I think the list it's pretty good considering the amount of characters we're discussing and going over in one sitting. But let's move on with the next supreme tier sorcerers who I think sit at the peak of power in my opinion.
Been looking around for some time. I don't really know why I try, but I don't wanna know.
The few that I'm about to discuss now sit at the peak of power and relevance in the series of Jujutsu Kaisen, showing profound and elite levels of control over their own abilities and cursed energy. They are the cream of the crop and have powers that we have yet to truly even comprehend. Uraume is first up, and this mysterious monk, what makes him so dangerous is his or hers connection with Sukuna and Kenjaku as well. He is a very dangerous and skilled individual and also a fighter, showing his abilities, being able to perform things like reverse curse technique and also being able to swiftly take down, nearly killing multiple grade 1 and semi-grade 1 sorcerers in one attack. One swift attack, he almost killed them. His power and skill is undeniable, showing his affinity toward more ice-related curse techniques like Ice Fall, Frost Calm, and Ice Formation. Another thing to note is that Uraume is a sorcerer from 1,000 years ago, and that speaks for his notoriety and his own skill as a sorcerer. And it is hinted that he is a cook for Sukuna and prepared human dishes for him, so he's a sort of a twisted individual, but it shows his own sort of notoriety and his power in the series, and he is definitely a very skilled sorcerer. This version of Geto is an individual that is absolutely out of his mind, while also being one who has all the answers to this Jujutsu world. Geto is a very complicated person when he decided to be a curse user, relishing and bolstering his own power and experience, reaching heights and stooping to any means necessary to achieve his goals. As a curse manipulation user, he has access to multiple special grades as well as a very large collection of lower grade curses, making him nigh on impossible to engage with and to fight, as he could just drop and bombard multiple curses on target and keep piling on an onslaught of attacks and ravage curses to use and to protect himself, as he is shown a variety of times while fighting, even using condensed curse techniques to make Uzumaki a powerful cursed energy attack. He is a very skilled weapons and martial artist user, so he always is prepared and has something in mind. And with the introduction of Kenjaku, a curse in control of Geto's body, it gave him access to millions of binding vows and contracts with cursed spirits. So it's like the stars have aligned and made this really demented and dark individual. And this pseudo Geto now has unleashed these curses into the world and is one of the main perpetrators behind all the events happening right now in Jujutsu Kaisen. The bounds of Kenjaku's power is very much largely unknown, but given that it is now in Geto's body and it has planned and schemed for years and it's reviving the golden age of curse techniques, Kenjaku is really a force to be reckoned with, and now that it's in Geto's body, it's definitely an opponent to look out for. I believe Yuta is a sorcerer who literally has the power to shake and change the Jujutsu world. His power is immense and even crazily compared to the infamous Satoru Gojo. Since becoming a sorcerer, Yuta has become this entity like a chosen one, and due to him also having the vengeful cursed spirit Rika by his side, he has extraordinary talent as a shaman, possessing a ridiculously stupid amount of cursed energy. But not only does he have a lot of energy, he also knows how to precisely use it with his power and compensate for his own lack of physical strength. He is a beast by himself, with every strike we have seen from him being heavy and destructive, carrying massive amounts of power behind it. On top of that, he shows a high level skill such as techniques like reverse curse technique healing, and due to Yuta's blood relations, he is a relative to Gojo and a descendant to the ancient Michizane Sugawara clan, letting Yuga copy other curse techniques like he did with Inumaki. Even though now that Rika is quote unquote gone, Yuta still has that massive amount of cursed energy and is able to summon at least a spirit like Rika. And his feats are still so impressive as well, defeating every single student in the 2017 Goodwill event, defeating the curse user Geto, and besting Yuji Itadori in combat with ease, actually killing him for the second time, then bringing him back to life. Like I just said, Yuta really, he seems like this chosen one, and he really does have the power to change the world and to really tip the scales of power when bear witness to the one who left it all behind and his overwhelming ferocity. Toji Fushiguro is the absolute pinnacle of raw physical prowess that we have ever seen in the series. Even compared to Maki, Toji is too damn strong. He is something out of an anomaly in the series, something that should not exist. He is the only one who is truly free in the series. Although Toji Fushiguro has zero, that's right, zero cursed energy, he has proven himself to be one of the most, if not the most skilled fighters and brutal combatants in Jujutsu Kaisen. Because of his lack of cursed energy, Toji uses cursed tools and is a weapons expert, as he is a masterful assassin and he knows his way around the trade. Whether it's conventional weapons like a handgun, or the powerful 3-section staff Playful Cloud, Toji, he uses them all with godlike skill. Toji has a heavenly restriction, and in return for him possessing no cursed energy, he is given a superhuman body that is so strong and its senses are so sharp that it could even perceive curses. One of Toji's most infamous encounters is when he ambushed and defeated Gojo Satoru, and yes, he defeated him and it was a clear, one-sided victory. That is bonkers, and due to Toji having no cursed energy at all, he could not be detected. And that, mixed with his insane speed and strength, Gojo was just not prepared to deal with him and was a bloodied mess on the floor. Although Toji, he did later get killed when Gojo unlocked his full potential and finished the job, but even after death, Toji's will still resonated in the world, and when the Ogami hag summoned Toji's body back into her grandson, Toji's will was so powerful that it overpowered the grandson's soul, and there was now an undead puppet of carnage running around and taking out the strongest around, and it definitely did that. Nothing could stop even this crude remnant of Toji as it proceeded to enter Dagon's domain and swiftly kill a special grade curse. Toji is without a doubt a very brutal and feared entity that really shook up the world. Toji is without a doubt a very brutal and feared entity that really shook up the world events due to his hand in killing the Star Plasma Vessel, but his notoriety will always be remembered as one of the strongest and one of the freest sorcerers to ever live.
領域展開無料空襲
Throughout the heavens and the earth, he alone is the honored one. Yes, Gojo Satoru is the one who was blessed as the head of the Gojo clan, having no fear and no shred of weakness. To be blunt, Gojo is the strongest. It is universal from us fans as well as the characters in the manga. Everyone respects, fears, and applauds Gojo's charm and power. He is single-handedly the most profoundly skilled individual when it applies to his cursed energy control and his infinite amount of cursed energy due to his technique. When Gojo was born, he was a child possessing both the Six Eyes and the Limitless technique, so he's the real chosen one. In this current era, he is the strongest sorcerer and is very sure of his own power. Gojo is brimming with confidence, and his skills don't lie. Six Eyes gives Gojo the power to ultimately perceive the world around him and measure cursed energy precisely, leaving nothing wasted to perfection. This lets him sense any danger as well as reduce his own cursed energy output next to zero so that he could infinitely fight and use techniques to no end. Limitless is his more proactive and destructive technique, and this ability gives the user absolute control over the space around them to the quantum level. And due to this power, Gojo has a variety of abilities that he uses, like Infinity, a complicated innate technique that if anyone attempting to hit Gojo, they would instead be hitting the infinity of space surrounding him, so nothing could ever actually reach Gojo. Kind of like the paradox or the parable of Achilles and the tortoise. Is something very complicated and hard to explain. But this power is it's normally taxing on the brain, but due to Gojo unlocking reverse curse technique as well after his battle with Toji, Gojo can now even apply positive energy to infinity and even sort out what is able to touch him based on mass, speed, and threat level, while continuously refreshing his brain, kind of like a perfectly efficient supercomputer. It does not stop there, however, because he can apply negative energy to infinity with the technique Blue Lapse, creating a vacuum of space where all matter is subject to be pulled in, and the laws of physics and the laws of the world force that negative space to be filled. He could even max out this blue technique and essentially create black holes in a specific area of space and move it like he's essentially erasing space itself. He also has the power of Reversal Red, a positive force opposite to that of blue, which is like a divergence of infinity, causing an extreme pushing or repulsing power 2 times the power of blue, as well as Hollow Purple, a technique that is non-standard as Gojo says, that uses the attraction of blue and the repulsion of red, creating a quantum singularity that erases all matter in its path.
I beg your pardon?
Quantum singularity.
なるほどわからんそうだね
Gojo is a monster that can do anything he puts his mind to. He is a Black Flash user, a master at hand-to-hand combat, as well as possessing barrier techniques such as curtains and his very own refined domain expansion, Unlimited Void, creating a space where anyone is subject to be overloaded with stimuli and perception on a universal level. Gojo was even the first to show his domain expansion of 0.2 seconds, displaying his own mastery over this barrier technique. I mean, Gojo can even levitate, fly, and warp long distances. It's like Gigi made a character that was the definition of a force to be reckoned with. Gojo is that literal force. He could absolutely slap special grades like it's nothing, even fighting multiple special grades at the same time while they had domain amplification going, negating Gojo's power, but it didn't matter. He was too perfect. He killed Hanami, he killed Toji, and beat Jogo so bad that he was used as a soccer ball. Even right now with Gojo sealed, His only imperfection is his own human resentment and regret under all that godlike power. Gojo's power actually changed the world, and it's because of his power that many curse users stay in hiding, and the balance of power is the way that it is now. But now that he's sealed, the order is out of balance, but there are still forces of evil and power that could even contend to the likes of Gojo Satoru. Finally, we have Ryomen Sukuna. What makes Sukuna a prime candidate for the #1 position in terms of elite strength is his tenacity and prominence as the king of curses. There are a multitude of unknowns when it comes to Sukuna's power, but from what we've seen in the series, you would never ever want him to be revived. Even in Yuji's body and partially reborn, he is still truly the monarch of chaos, even to curse's standards. The potency of the very presence of his soul is enough to shake your core and bow to the king. Sukuna is an immensely powerful curse that was once human from 1,000 years ago, having a vast quantity of cursed energy. He has displayed high-level techniques such as reverse curse techniques, as well as being able to heal others. Being as old as he is, Sukuna is likely the most experienced fighter and a true sorcerer in all respects. He has immense speed, immense strength, and durability, as well as having elite cursed abilities like Dismantle and Cleave, curse slicing and slashing attacks capable of killing special grades, as well as injuring Mahoraga, even using an unnamed flame-based attack to incinerate Jogo of all people, as well as kill Mahoraga. He has his own refined domain, Malevolent Shrine, a unique domain that actually does not have a set space, but a binding vow is performed, allowing the hit zone to be increased tremendously. And we have seen the destruction it caused, as most of the civilians and the city of Shibuya was destroyed were dismantled to an atomic level, leaving a massive 200-meter crater where the city once stood. Sukuna is the most powerful and evil curse in history, and we have just only seen a sliver of his overall capabilities. That is why I believe Sukuna really sort of sits at the top along with Gojo's strength. Because of his own power and relevance in the series, he is an extremely superior being, really more powerful than all the sorcerers on this list as a character. And in the series, I only think his strength could maybe be matched by, like I said, Gojo and Yuda's power, but that's being very generous given Sukuna's notoriety and his presence in Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna is an extremely elite and powerful curse and a sorcerer. He is the king of curses. But seeing how much power Gojo has at his disposal on the sorcerer side, it could actually even out in terms of how their powers are. But I still believe that, like I said, Sukuna is the king of curses, and he is truly evil in all respects. So overall, this is what my ranking in this list is looking like. I think it wasn't the most perfect list, but I feel it was the best list that I could have gave based on the power, skill level, and potential that we've seen from all the fighters involved. I could even change the list slightly like this, seeing how different Gojo and Sukuna are in terms of power in the verse, and how they are truly monsters and are like the basis for the peak of powers and sorcery in Jujutsu Kaisen. I did not mention this before, but this video is inspired by Link Shadow's channel and the graphics they do over there, so go check them out in the description below. But guys, I worked incredibly hard on this video and trying to make it as fun and as informative as I could make it. So please let me know how you feel about this 50+ character tier list, as well as commenting on which spots you would replace or put under or over someone. I know this list, it wasn't perfect, but I do enjoy talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, and it was very, very fun to make. And if it's not up already, I will soon be posting a Discord server up for anyone who wants to grow the community, so stay tuned for that. If I haven't posted that, I will soon. and continue to discuss to continue the discussion to go on further, and not just Jujutsu Kaisen but other anime and manga related content as well. Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share the video if you haven't already. But I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for staying to the end, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye bye.